Welcome to the Virtual Strategic Solutions Virtual Reality Simulation System. Accessing Legacy Dataset. Files loaded, simulation ready. Forming around 2085, with Atlantic City collapsing under the weight of Carly Day's incompetent leadership, the Showmen were created by Mother Charlotte to provide a safe haven for artists and performers after the social structures of the old world collapsed. With the need for entertainment at an all-time low, she kept the craft alive by creating a family of performers, all unconditionally supporting and protecting each other, all to ensure that the show goes on, even past the end of the world. Over the next 20 years, the Showmen became an eclectic gathering of artists, innovators, entrepreneurs, and philosophers, united by their common identity. It grew far beyond what Charlotte had imagined, becoming a part of the Atlantic City triad, alongside the mob and the Munis. They provide what could be called the spirit of Atlantic City, filling the Showmen's pier, their seat of power, with things that keep the imagination working and the sparkle in the eyes of the people present. This includes games, gambling, performances, and everything else that keeps humanity's soul alive. This does not necessarily mean keeping humans alive. Thanks to Charlotte's favored son, Horatio Cruz, the Showmen have started the most sensational game, a gladiatorial arena making extensive use of the Aquarium of the Atlantic, where people face death every day in order to learn the true limits of themselves. Contestants battle each other, free from what Charlotte describes as the shackles of the pre-war world that prevented those who wished to test their martial skill in a duel to the death. Mother Charlotte is the leader of the organization, though relations are not based on a strict hierarchy, but familial ties. Charlotte leads them as a mother does children, and many genuinely see her as a mother figure, as she helped them deal with loss, of parents, livelihood, or the basic will to live. Charlotte teaches her children confidence, which enables opportunities and making the most of them. She does not support arrogance, which leads to hubris and makes the most shining star into the most drab and uninteresting spot of light. She also balks at suggestions of insanity, believing them to be mere boxes people use for sorting and looking down on people. All Showmen have a flair for the fantastic and extraordinary, deliberately departing from the tedium of the social contract to shock others and perhaps inspire them to reach beyond the mundane and the humdrum of their daily lives. Sometimes the inspiration can go a little too far, as the same flair makes their shows incredibly bombastic and potentially deadly to the audience. Regardless, they remain a popular attraction in Atlantic City, making the Atlantic City Boardwalk their seat of power, where sequins and stripes aren't out of the ordinary, but just a part of the local aesthetic, along with the unhinged aura. Perhaps the most esoteric of Atlantic City factions, the Showmen root their practices in a set of core beliefs. The most basic one is that everyone has a potential they can unlock if they so choose. Charlotte's teachings reject outside factors such as motivation or muses, trying to predict success and engineer it with the right routines, yet never once straying outside one's box or entrusting random chance. Horatio's creation of the game embodies the way the Showmen believe one can discover their true potential. Facing death in no-holds-barred combat, where the greatest challenges to one's strength and willpower push participants to their limits, consciously subjecting themselves to their test to uncover their potential. The victors of the tournament have the right to bear the title of sensation, focusing their ambition. The Showmen are respected and even feared for their devil-may-care attitude and stunts, which also render them incredibly dangerous. Sal Stickyfingers compares them to a pack of starved, rabid hyenas, which isn't far from the truth insofar danger is concerned. However, their daring is extremely risky, and as they have limited stocks of medicine, they are reliant on the Munis to keep themselves alive through supplies or medics on loan. The Showmen also purchased the Devil's Blood from the Lombardi family in order to use it to unlock their true potential. Mother Charlotte seems to consider the war a perverse kind of liberation, freeing humanity from the shackles of rules that permeated the pre-war world. The most sensational game created by her favored son, Horatio Cruz, exemplifies that philosophy. It finally permits the willing to battle with their own lives to see how far their wills can carry them, though in a more controlled fashion than the random violence of the wastelands. It is entertainment as it should be, making people feel alive, help them find meaning, perhaps learn something about themselves. As such, bloodshed during the game is not tragedy but opportunity, capitalizing on the chance to rediscover the who and why of humanity, granted by the Great War. Charlotte is close friends with Concerta Lombardi, with the two having regular tea and coffee on Sundays, though Charlotte only recently managed to get her espresso machine working. Charlotte is one of the few people to be aware that Quentino Lombardi's condition severely worsened, and not all may be right with the Lombardis. The fearless game master of the showman's brutal endeavor, carrying himself with over-the-top showmanship and swagger, Veratio is a man consciously choosing to behave in a manner that inspires and shakes people awake from the dross of daily life. He was once just one of many wastelanders, taken captive by a group of raiders. Something changed inside him as he was tortured and starved by the bandits. Veratio had an epiphany when he saw how a vicious wild dog was starved and broken by the raiders, turned from a master hunter into an obedient pet at their every beck and call. He saw himself in the creature, realized how the spirit could be manipulated and how he was conditioned to think of himself as a powerless slave. Thus broke the first bond, the invisible one. The second came later, when his captors became overconfident and he found his opening. Veratio broke free, but rather than just kill them and make his escape, he turned the whip upon them. He broke their bodies, then their spirits, before finally killing them. In the process, he realized just what transformed him, being pushed to extremes and facing death, resolving to challenge what he despises most, the slow decline into chaos and oblivion. He took it upon himself to create the answer to the plague, the game, or as he put it, the game possessed his vision, which led him to turn the boardwalk into a vast arena where the participants are pushed to the limits and killed if need be. He also caught the eye of Mother Charlotte, who mentioned while the world would call him a monster, she would view him as her child. The game's dangers are designed to push people and help them find their worth, to find their hidden strengths. Veratio pushed many past their limits, but considers that a necessary sacrifice to provide others with something to fight for and focus their lives. The title of sensation isn't just a piece of recognition, it's a catalyst, a lens to focus the ambition of contestants. While Cruz considers pain to be an essential tool of refining the human spirit, he rejects the idea of being a sadist. It's just one of several tools to coax the human spirit and temper it, to separate the wheat from the chaff. Those who crumble at the first test are beneath his notice, but those who endure, adapt and transform provide the conflict and inspiration necessary for mutual benefit. Similarly, he rejects judgments that the game is barbaric. Nobody is forced to participate in the game, and they are free to resign if they have no further wish to compete. But this does not give anyone the license to just waste Cruz's time with colorless insults. Veratio himself does not put himself above other contestants. Facing his own mortality and emerging transformed simply left him keenly aware of the shackles of ignorance most of the wastelanders put on, choosing blissful ignorance over enlightenment. Aided by a variety of masks and social codes, humanity is denying its true nature, rotting in the dust of its own complacency. He is aware that the same still applies to him. Mastering his mortality has left him with few challenges in life, leading to a risk of stagnation. Certainly, the lack of genuine fear to make his heart race and his back shiver has been a nuisance, and he frequently ponders what his next challenge should be in order to reveal the truest form of his spirit. At the same time, is it even possible to quell the anxiety of that which cannot be known?